How did the near-death experience happen? What were you doing at the time? What
Yeah.
occurred?
So the near death experience happened in probably the lowest place of my life. I was dealing with severe depression. I'd been through multiple relationships that I had lost, and I was injured in the military. I had been on pain medication for about 10 years, and I was dealing
Oh,
with
wow.
chronic constant pain from a back injury, which I had 6 spinal surgeries with. And so I was drinking one night and went out riding my motorcycle and was popping wheelies on the freeway with no helmet on,
Oh,
and ended up crashing the motorcycle and hitting my
Jesus.
head, and in doing that, I ended up into a new reality of life.
What speed were you doing? Do you know when you came
About
off?
about 65, 70 miles per hour.
Ah, because I ride
So
motorbikes and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like,
So
yeah.
so when that happened, I went into this very dark space. It was an open void. And in this open void, I had these lights surround me to create a tunnel. And these lights just kind of warped in, almost like Star Trek or Star Wars, where they go into hyperspace and you go down this crazy tunnel, and all these lights are coming at you. Well, it was like that all around me, and it created
Wow.
a tunnel. And in this tunnel, the lights turned into different color lights, and they were the most beautiful, vibrant lights I'd ever seen before. And as
Were you in pain at this point? Sorry to
no,
interrupt.
no,
So
no,
you'd come off
no,
the bike. Do you remember coming
yeah,
off the bike or
I
just,
remember coming down and then flipping up in the air and hitting my motorcycle, and I remember hitting my head. And when I hit my head, I remember thinking to myself, like, "This is how I die. This is the end of it. Everything that was my life is now over, and this is how I go." But
so I just want to find out a bit more before you go into the NDE,
yeah,
because like, were you on a mission to kill yourself that night, do you think? Did you care?
I didn't care. I didn't
Yeah.
care. I had dealt with depression my whole life, and I wasn't trying to kill myself, but I wasn't trying to be respectful to myself at all. I was just trying to live life and trying to get as many outside experiences into my life that would kind of cover up the pain that I
Got
had in
you.
my life. You know what I mean? So that's what this was. This was just an experience for me to drown the pain of reality.
Far out. So you hit your head, and the next thing you know, you're in this void.
I'm in this complete void of just weightlessness where I'm almost floating. And I never really thought about near death experiences. My dad had one and tried to explain to me his, and I never really got it. And in this place, I didn't know what it was. It was completely new. I wasn't feeling any pain. I was floating around freely. And these lights started forming in a tunnel around me, and I was in the middle of this tunnel. This tunnel was probably like 40 to 50 feet in diameter. And I remember seeing all these colors, and they looked like pixels on a TV screen. They were different colors. They were different experiences that I had had. And I remember looking at one light thinking, what is this? What are these lights? What are these colors? Because they're so different from what I was just dealing with. I was just on a motorcycle. What happened? And I remember looking at this light, this one pixel out of millions and millions of pixels. And I remember being enveloped by a pixel. I remember being inside of the pixel. And inside of that pixel was a moment of my life. It was a simple moment. It was nothing that made any sense to me. It was nothing that I could have remembered. It was just a moment of my life that I was meant to see. And in that moment, it was it was me at a grocery store, or at a gas station, I think it was, and I simply said the words "hi." I said hello to somebody, and I remember the feeling that I had, how me saying hello was coming from me. I remember the value of that. And I remember the value of the person receiving the hello, and how much it meant to them. They were having a bad day, or they were just not living life happily. And I remember how much my hello meant to them. And it seems like such a mundane thing to think about. I would never have remembered this experience on my own. And it started to put together a puzzle that every small circumstance in our life ultimately leads to our placement in reality currently. So that hello subsequently changed that person's life in a way that was positive for them. And it made me feel good as though I was living my purpose in this life, you know? And so I went down this tunnel and I came out of that experience once I knew that. Then I saw another experience of where I had this. My mom would send me to go buy milk all the time. We lived down the street from the store. So me and my brother would go walk down to the store to go buy milk or groceries or whatever. Well, this one particular time, there was a guy who wanted to steal my milk from me. And I don't know about you, but I've never had anybody want to steal milk from me. That just seemed ridiculous. I'm like, okay, I don't understand why you're trying to steal my milk, but I didn't want him to steal my milk. I didn't want him to take that from my family. And so he ultimately tried to pull the milk from me, and we got into a scuffle and got into a fight. And in this near death experience moment where I went back to that place, I realized something different. It wasn't this guy trying to steal something from me as much as it was his trying to provide something for his family that he wasn't able to provide. And I felt a sense of awe when I looked at him in this new regard and said, this guy is a human just like I am. This guy has struggles just like I do. And so who am I to say that, he's not looking to find happiness for his life or trying to provide something for his family? And it really touched me, and I never looked at life that way. I looked at people's reactions as that was plain and simple who they were, but ultimately who they project to the world comes from and stems from a long line of experiences for them.
Mm-hmm.
So their truth is different than their reaction, but they're trying to do something in that reaction. And so I got to see a new version of an experience that I thought to be negative. And I went down this tunnel and I just started putting these little pieces together that really explained to me what life was, and it really, it changed my whole perspective of everything, and near the end of the tunnel, I remember, and I'd gone through probably 20 or 30 of these experiences where I would put together
Got
little
you.
pieces of what reality is and how I'm looking at it versus how it's really meant to be looked at. And I started to realize that everybody is their own individual person. Although we live in a society where we're trying to be somebody else or we're trying to project ourselves onto another life, we love the car that this person has and we want to be that cool. So we're going to go buy that car. We want to buy these clothes. That's not who we are. Ultimately, we're these unique collection of experiences in our life that are completely unique. Nobody has the experience that Guy has. Nobody has the experience that Jeremiah has. I have my very own experiences that make me completely unique, and all of my viewpoints and all my truths are based upon those experiences. So I tell people we're like a Picasso painting. We're so individually unique, and the moment that we start to embrace the uniqueness of everyone, the moment we start to actually value who they are as a person, And so I got to the end of this tunnel and there were blank spaces where those pixels and where those colors were. And those colors were colors that I'd never seen before. They were most vivid, beautiful colors, And I got to the end of the tunnel and these pixels were blank. I could see the outline of where the colors should be, but there was nothing there. And I realized, okay, I may have a chance now to go back and paint these pictures. I may have a chance to go back and create pixels, right? And the moment that I thought that, I realized that there was a being behind me. I
Oh,
realized that
wow.
there was a very large being, and I don't like to say he's male or female, but it definitely was a female or a male energy. It was a very powerful projective energy because male and female is just physical, the nature of who we are, right? Our spirits are completely unique. So, but this being was there kind of pushed me along this entire time, trying to guide me or keep me going. And so I noticed the blank spaces, then I noticed the being. I thought, oh wow, I'm not alone. And as soon as I remember acknowledging the being, he said three words to me. He didn't speak the whole time. He didn't try to tell me anything. He said three words: become the purpose. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know what the purpose is. What is the purpose? Like, what is the purpose of my life? What is the purpose of me being here on earth? What is it? That's something I've been searching for my whole life. And so I didn't understand what he meant to become the purpose. And immediately after the being spoke that, there was a white, powerful light that came from infinity and just kind of enveloped my essence of who I was, the energy in that moment. And I remember feeling this pure, loving energy that just went into who I was and attached itself, and it became this just amazing experience. But I didn't know what the energy was. I knew that it held information. I knew that it held secrets, if you will, but I didn't know how to define it in that moment. And so after it permeated my body, my essence, I remember immediately being back in my body in the physical world on the side of the freeway. I had 8 broken ribs, I had a punctured lung, I had a broken wrist, I had fluid filling up in my chest. And I thought, oh my gosh, what was that? I mean, I didn't know what that was. And so I had to go to the hospital and I had to have 2 chest tubes put in. I was in the hospital for about 2.5 weeks, you know,
Wow.
and go ahead.
Before you jump into the hospital, did you see the being, or was it? Did you just hear it and feel its presence
I,
with you?
I felt its presence. I never looked back, but it's almost, I tell people, like when you're in the grocery store or you're in a line and you know somebody is really close to you and you just feel the presence next to you. You can't really define it, but you know that they're there. And
Yeah.
so all I have is a perception of this being behind me that was just like a shadowy figure, just the head and the shoulders, and it was big, but it was definitely behind me. So I never saw it. I never looked back. It was just a feeling of the presence there.
Yeah. And how long do you think you were out for? Like all that went on. I know
Yeah.
people struggle with that totally. Every time I speak
Yeah.
to someone.
Yeah, I'm gonna struggle with it too, But it was it was probably a couple minutes. It was a
Hmm.
couple minutes, but it felt like an eternity. It felt like time has no bearing when you go to the other side. There's nothing like time, and people that have these near death experiences know that. They know they say 2 things. I don't know what time was, and they say I felt love. And so those are the 2 things that I was looking to go try to explain afterwards. But yeah, I didn't. Yeah, you don't feel time. It's just interesting.
Yeah. So they obviously you ended up in hospital. You got taken to hospital.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
injured. How long were you in hospital for? You say two and a half
I was in
weeks.
2.5 weeks. Yeah, I went in to
Yeah.
have a chest tube put in, and then went home for a week, and then went back because I had to have another chest tube put in because I still had internal bleeding, and so they put another chest tube into me, and I was in there for another week and a half.
Okay.
And
And how were you managing that time in hospital? Because obviously you've come off your motorbike. You hit rock bottom, like you were in, like you said, in depression, drunk, pulling wheelies up the freeway, going 70
yeah,
miles an hour.
yeah,
You've come off, hit your head. You've had this mind blowing experience.
right,
Then now you're back in your body. You're obviously in pain, and you're laying on the bed in hospital.
right.
How were you where was your mind at the time? How were you processing all of that contrast?
It was such a weird place to be. When you deal with something that's so supernatural, and then you come back into this experience. You're, for instance, this is something that people don't think about, but when you are your pure essence, you're in this freedom. This is why people say love. You're in this freedom of expression throughout your energy. When you come back into your body, you're dealing with a body, a physical form that is deteriorating, that takes more resistance for your energy to flow through it, which is why we feel tired and whatnot. So I'm sitting in the hospital thinking, I'm back in this body. I feel all of this pain. And where I was, I didn't feel any pain. I didn't feel anything but happiness and love and joy. And I wanted to go back there, and it really gave me an opportunity. Being in the hospital was a very important part of this because I had to sit still and I had to think about what had happened and I had to process what had happened. Where normally, if I was okay and I had this experience, woke back up, no broken bones, no nothing, I would wake up and just continue on with my life. But I think being in the hospital was a part of the process where I had to calm myself, calm my mind in order to process everything that happened. And so I took this opportunity to kind of reevaluate my life and think about what becoming my purpose meant. And so I had been on prescription pain medication for my spinal injury in the military for about 9.5, 10 years. And I realized that as soon as I got done with my healing of my ribs and my wrists, that I would quit taking my pain medication cold turkey. I realized in that space of the hospital that I needed to start meditating because I felt like calming my mind allowed me the space and the quietness to kind of decipher what was told to me. And so the hospital stay was really the most beautiful part of it, because that was actually the flipping point. The moment in the NDE was an observation, but without an action with observation, you'll never make forward momentum. You can only observe it. So without the action, it's like information and wisdom. Until you take that information and put it into play in your life and turn that into wisdom, right, and action, it will only be a wasted space in your mind. So I wanted to think about all this stuff and start to put these things in action. So meditation was another thing for me, which I could never meditate before because I had been in chronic pain for 10 years. I couldn't sit still. I got ADHD, I think, and I just couldn't sit still and meditate. So I decided that if I was going to completely change my life, because this experience was a whole new one, that I needed to go all in how I experienced it and how I move forward.
Wow. So, so I'm chuckling because we were speaking off air about our experiences that we've had personally, and how you just can't quite go back. You've got to. There's you're living with heart and soul, like it's amplified,
Right,
you just want to come from that place, even though the outside world wants to contain you
right.
so often.